Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Amplify, where we like to highlight, spotlight people that are fancy and family members, primos. My guest today, Julian Sado. Welcome, Julian.
Hey, thank you, Delilah. Good to see you.
It's good seeing you too.
Prima.
I call him primo because I feel like we look alike in some like weird way. We used to work together and
Mhm.
we used to work together and we've known each other for years now.
Yeah.
And Julie and I have like, I don't know, like the mixed look or something like that, where people are like,
We're melodic.
yes.
Yeah,
What
yeah, we're melodic.
so yes. So welcome, and thank you for being my guest. I appreciate you. I know
I
we're both
appreciate
very busy.
Yes, it's all good. I'd love to see you. So, at least
Yes,
in 2D. Yeah. You're much taller in person, but it's all good.
yes, yes, I am. But I wanted to bring Julian on because I talk about and help the following, the audience about visibility, which is one of the reasons why I do so many videos.
Mhm.
And I have read that it takes the human brain about 13 times for it to see a person to say, "Hey, I know that person.
Mhm.
I know them, whether virtually or in person."
Mhm.
Julian, why is that?
Well, being an NLP practitioner, one thing I do differently, why I don't speak a lot that and tell people I'm an NLP practitioner, because I
Mhm.
love neuroscience. I blend the two together, which is not a norm in our culture of science. You have psychology, sociology, they all have their own silos, right? So I blend them all
Okay.
together. But what you're saying is basically true. And this is where, I think a lot of people that are in sales or in service or in business haven't thought about because how society has changed. So let me just give you a little exercise. So everybody knows who, and this is part of my training program. Everybody knows who Ryan Reynolds is, right? You know who
Yeah.
that. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So let's pretend you're in an elevator, and all of a sudden Ryan Reynolds, the original real Ryan Reynolds, walks in and
Okay.
gets the elevator with you. How are you going to act?
Like, oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah, you're like, oh my god. Now put in perspective. If you see Ryan Reynolds on a like an interview, and he
Mhm.
says all the nice things, and somebody says, "What do you think about Ryan Reynolds?" You would say, "What?
Yeah. Like,
Yeah, he's a great guy. He's such a
great
nice guy,
guy.
right?"
Yeah.
You don't know jack about Ryan Reynolds, but your subconscious feels you do
Mhm.
because he is attainable to the subconscious. And the subconscious doesn't know the difference between real and fake. So the persona he gives is perceived as being genuinely and true on everything he does. So with that said, when Ryan Reynolds gets in the elevator and he says, "Hey, I think you should talk to my friend who's a mortgage guy. He'd be a really good mortgage person for you to talk to." Or you should talk to this person about XYZ, or you should
Yeah.
do this if you want to feel better about your life or how to get to your goal. You're like, okay. And you're like, believe in it. And it's because your association is non threatening, because all the associations you have is through a dopamine drive, not a negative drive. So, and that's what I'm saying about sales. If I try to sell you something and my first 6 seconds is about me and what I do in sales, I have a preconceived idea of who salespeople are. What do salespeople do to people? What do they normally, what's the first thing they think about? They take
Sale.
advantage. Yeah,
Yeah.
but they take advantage. They're trying to get something for
Mhm.
themselves, which means it's a threat to me. So the goal, like you're teaching, is the important thing is getting out there, being genuine, be yourself, let people feel they know you. And because of
Mhm.
that, the threat is eliminated. So your ability to sell is heightened and much more agreeable to the person listening.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That is a lot. But I get it. I
Yeah.
do. That's the style how I operate in what you call sales. I
Mhm.
call relationshiping, but
Yeah.
I use it in my recruiting
Yeah. Yeah.
channel of my business.
Yeah.
Not threatening at all. I
Mhm.
am AKA the taco girl. The taco
You
girl
are the
just
taco girl. We had a fight over burritos once, but it's okay. So,
but people people come up to me at conferences and events, never met me,
yeah.
and oh, I'm always so honored. And I've never seen them comment on any of my videos
Mhm.
or maybe even like or anything like that, but they'll recall a video that I did and talk about the topic and how it related to them and how they, I'm glad I spoke on it, but they come to me, and they just recognize me, and I appreciate that. And now it's dipping into, not even mortgage or
Yeah. Yeah.
our
Heavy.
industry. It's
Yeah.
outside of the industry, and it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the goal for everyone to think about is also how it affects how the subconscious and neuroscience works with them personally. Most people don't do things because they look at all the flaws they have. And I think you saw the video just posted when I was a talent agent.
Yeah.
And that whole concept of I'm not good enough and stuff, that's all neuroscience teaches you,
Mm.
that our body is always pulling in the negatives to protect us from future threats. So we're going to look at our childhood traumas and define ourselves based off of the things that threatened us, whether I was laughed at in school, whether I
Mm.
didn't make a basket and everybody teased me in the game. Those things are held deep inside of us that are going to affect our interest or ability to push past this discomfort. So neuroscience teaches you that too. So that's why I don't call myself, I am an NLP practitioner, but I blend in behavioral science and neuroscience and all of it. So those three legs give you the freedom to break through the matrix, if you will, and see life for what it is. And so it's kind of fun.
That's it's so much. And I
Mhm.
love how you can incorporate that not only in your day to day,
Yeah.
um, but in your business. I do, and I don't
Mhm.
even realize it. And then you tell me I do, and I'm like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
You talk about imperfection and flaws. One of the reasons why I do video and I'm a fan is because, I know from an optic, I am. Uh, I have how can I say it? Like, okay, let me just I have imperfections, right? You can see, my arm is a little different. Sometimes my porter catheter scar, things like that.
Mhm.
I honestly purposely make that visible so that other people and women especially don't have an issue with how they look. Because anytime I tell people, why don't you do, or I asked,
Mhm.
why don't you do video? They don't like the way they look and they don't like the way they sound.
Yeah.
And I don't, that makes me sad. It
Mhm.
makes me sad because, um, that should not be a reason.
Yeah. Well, to your point, the concept of I don't like is something deep rooted from some place where they were teased, scarred,
Mm,
became focused on that. But it starts really young because as a child, you can't dissect what you're feeling. So it becomes more of an emotional trigger that is always looking for something similar to that trigger. So that's where our comparison, that whole comparison is really infiltrated in our bodies now because of social media and because of the posturing and the young kids that stand next to Lamborghinis and talk all the game that they have. So we have this idea, but again, coming from Hollywood, I see it for what it is. Everything is focused on the subconscious. Everything is driving you to either want to get something because you don't have it, or want to strive for something because somebody else has it and you want to feel like they feel. But if you just get still and think about your gifts, first of all, you're not flawed. I'm just going to challenge you in that. You know, your struggles are your strength. If you didn't
oh,
have what happened to you as a child, you would not be Delilah, Taco Tuesday Delilah. And you got to realize that your purpose for that is to give you the drive to be something for somebody else. And that's really it. So there's no flaw in that. It's just that was your journey to be who you are.
yeah,
Everybody has a journey. You know, I'm just as scarred as you are, and maybe not, I don't have the visible arm, but I have it in other ways, right? So we all have the same emotional triggers, just we show it in different ways. So, and that's really interesting that people do that. And I agree with you, but that's where, shadow work or coaching to your, getting a coach, those things help you get through those barriers and get you to stop fooling yourself about your reasons for not doing stuff. It's not you don't like the way you look. It's you're still hurt about what somebody named Tom when you were in sixth grade said to you when you liked him and he looked at you and said, "Ew, you're ugly." That's the truth. That's where that comes from. And so when you realize that, then you realize I'm living for Tom. Like, what am I doing? I don't know Tom anymore. So, and so you learn to get over those things pretty quick, and then you realize no one's really thinking about you but you, and how you
Mm.
make people feel is what people remember. So it's not the look. If you look at singers, they sing, they open their mouth wide and show their teeth and their cavities and nostrils are flaring, but no one's going around talking about Adele, how she looks when she sings. They're just saying what a beautiful voice she has. So I think that's where we get like coaching comes in. And that's where we get better at that.
Oh, wow. I'm taking notes because you dropped so many cool nuggets. Okay, as we wrap up, Julian, to the audience, to my mortgage family and people in real estate, mortgage technology, what is something that you do within your line of business that can apply to them? And if they need to connect with you, how can they do that?
Yeah, you can contact me, just Julian Sado. You can Google me or go to juliansado.com or
Okay.
pivottochange.com. Those are the pivot to change the number two. But what
Yeah.
we talked about is really understanding your brand and who you are is really has nothing to do with the business, has to do with your interest. I'll use somebody we both know who I talked to recently about his business. It's like loves Jeeps. Then he should have a Jeep channel and talk about the Jeeps. You got over
Yeah.
40,000 people that bought Jeeps in Florida. You got a Jeep clubs. They're all mid class. They're from 120 to 180,000 middle income. That's your market. So focus on the Jeep clubs, not the mortgage. So I tell people to focus on what interests them because the world has shifted to social interest, not social media. And so focus on interest, find people in that interest, and then become that brand around that interest. And so that's what I want to teach people, and just think about that from a mortgage perspective or even a real estate perspective. And so to find me, I just challenge people just like you. I help them get comfortable on camera. I'm behind the scenes. I love being behind the scenes, but you know me, I have to get better at being out there too. But I love being behind the scenes and pushing people up. So I help people get better on the camera. Like I record them and I do some training with them and help them how to look at the camera, when to not look at the camera, how to be
Nice.
personable, how to create a story, how to tell a story. All those kind of things are really important, and how to, really stack their journey so people have interest in it. So that's what I do with people and help them get better at that, because that kind of piggybacks on what you do. So that's really what I can help people with if they ever want to do that.
Love it. Well, you guys have to connect with my primo Julian. Thank you for being
Thank
a
you.
guest, guys. Thank you for another episode, for watching another episode of Amplify. We have movers and shakers, people that are fancy and familia. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Hey, movers and shakers, they shake and move at the same time.
That's right.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.